30 is Lee Humphries, but he lost a lot of time there. Lee Humphries on bike 30, following through is Michael Rudder on 31, so Reynolds has got Rudder right on his heel now. John's really got to make the choice and get underneath them. That's it. Round the outside this time, and that could have been brilliant for JR if he'd made the back mark and pick it up, because he'd have picked it up right in the face of Michael Rudder. Didn't quite work that one. I'm sure John wouldn't have attended doing that, but it would have been the same thing anyway.
Now then, how far ahead is Walker? A good distance comes the answer. He's into paddock.
Yep.
Here's second and third. Rutter sliding up the inside.
No chance of that. Reynolds has got it covered, coming down across Paddock Hill Bend now. We're on lap 15. Remember, this race only going 20 laps. It's been shortened because there's a curfew here on the time they can run motorcycle races late into the evening, and of course it gets dark.
Yeah, they ain't got lights on. I thought that was all.
No, they've because there's a curfew, so 20 laps instead of 28. Reynolds has still got time, but he's got to work very, very hard at it. Still got back markers too. 31, Michael Rudder is hanging in there behind him. Rudder, if he finishes on the podium here, it would have been a brilliant day. There's Chris Walker cutting his way through. 69 is Steve Marks on the Clifford James Footwear Yamaha, presenting no problem for Chris. But look how many Chris has got to get through. There's Ben Atkins with...
just as unhappy as in race one.
So, well, Ben Atkins, he's...
And again, Chris Walker has dealt with the back markers very efficiently. I think he's stitched up Reynolds and Rutter again, Keith.
Yeah, it's very much the luck of the draw to some extent with back markers. Sure. He got them absolutely perfectly there, straight under 18. That's Nigel Nottingham, and perfect situation for him. I think next up is 36, Gordon Blackley, was it?
There he is.
It is 36, Gordon Blackley. Now, Blackley's doing good in the Privateer Challenge as well. Walker, Reynolds, Rutter, Gobert up to 4th, Neil Mackenzie 5th, Shaky Burns 6th. So Gobert not making the progress now once he's got past the men that he's got past.
Now there's Walker, and you saw just in the shot before how the Ducati and Yamaha man were, what, 2-3 back markers behind them.
Oh, down has gone Gobert. That's Gobert down, 95, Gobert. He was in 4th place. He was trying hard, and he's been Hodgsoned right at Hodgson's corner. Oh, just leave it for Rob Mack to pick up Joey.
OK then.
So there you go, fuel off and away we go. We'll go and have a lay down. Chris Walker then, Paddock Hill Bend. You won't take any notice of Anthony Gobert this time round. Anthony Gobert had a lot of work to do to close in on Chris Walker at this pace. Even the Go Show didn't manage it in race 2 today. Walker at Druids.
The blue flags working overtime all around the circuit.
Hope somebody's taking some notice of him in this race, unlike race 1. Lap 17 of the 20, we're on. And it's such a short lap, 1.2 miles. Chris makes it sideways, but when doesn't he? Yeah. Walker, superb. Even at the end of the Cooper Straight there, he's still got it sideways on, running into Surtees here.
Worth reiterating that if he gets it to the flag, he's going to take a 21-point advantage for Donington Park for the last 2 races of the championship. That is a big ask for Neil Hodgson.
Oh, it really is, but 50 points are still up for grabs when they get to Donington.
That means, surely, Keith, that Hodgson's got to rely on a mistake or a crash or a breakdown.
Yeah, but I reiterate what I said earlier. Who would have expected to have 2 of the championship contenders down on the floor in separate races today? You just couldn't have predicted that. Donington, we don't know what's going to happen at Donington. Walker, Rutter, Reynolds, Mackenzie, top 4. Now that Goey's gone, of course, Goey is down, but 4.5 second lead from Walker over the Rainman Rutter. Yeah. Just goes to show you how good Walker is. There is Darrell Healy on the left, Colin Wright on the right, and no sign of Neil Hodgson. He's probably gone back to his motorhome to have a bit of a cry in his tea, I would have thought, after today's escapade.
Who can blame him?
Lap 18 of 20, we're halfway round it.
I take it the Reynolds yellow flag incident will be irrelevant if he finishes back in 3rd behind Rutter.
Well, it won't be irrelevant if the marshals decide to put in a report on that. As far as I'm aware, you know, he did pass on a yellow, I'm sure of that. But if no one protests, of course, JR will be OK.
Currently running in 3rd place, and let's face it, waving goodbye. There he is, just coming into the picture. It's his championship hopes are disappearing out the window. 2
laps to go of this race, and you're right there. So, JR, maybe the incident with teammates and the like from race 1 today will pale into insignificance by the time we get to Donington. We're on board with John Reynolds. Oh, really? John Reynolds sliding past the back marker there, up into Druids. And there's Rutter. Rutter has gone through again. So Rutter has slid underneath JR as JR dealt with back markers. He really has a bad afternoon with back markers, hasn't he?
That was when Rutter took 2nd place off JR.
Do you know what's impressive for me? Michael Rutter in 2nd place is a man who's beaten the likes of Carl Fogarty and John Kaczynski around this track, albeit the long one, in these kind of conditions in a World Superbike race. And here's Chris Walker, so much better than even Michael Rutter on a day like this.
And back to Michael Rutter, on those races, Keith, he's run away in the wet. Here he's been duelling and fighting, and going in where the elbows are flying.
Underlining then, underscoring the fact that this is world-class racing at our domestic British Superbike class. Final lap, Walker, last lap, just back markers to deal with, but really he won't have to worry too much with them, even though the blue flags are frantically waved for him.
Dean Ellison.
Dean Ellison had a great first race today. So, Michael Rutter is in second place in front of John Reynolds. Will Reynolds be able to repay him by the end of this lap? We're on the last lap. Chris Walker is away with the fairies at the front. He's got 25 points. He has heaped all the pressure back on Neil Hodgson, who is already back in his motorhome. There is Walker. He will be absolutely ecstatic. For the first time this year, he must feel like the British Championship is going to be his, because he has been 3 times runner-up. This will be the first time he has looked like odds-on favourite to take the British Championship title. 4 years trying. Well, I've said it before, he never gives up. There's Nick Barnes from Suzuki, Paul Denning behind him. Suzuki take the win then, in the hands of Chris Walker. The fans are happy, there's no doubt about it. He is a favourite around the country, and really the reason for that is he never gives up. He always keeps trying. He's all action. He picked himself up from race 1 today, dusted himself down, took the win, and 21 points. He will go to Donington Park the final round with as an advantage over Neil Hodgson. 31 there. Michael Rutter comes home second in the race today. That has thwarted any hope I think John Reynolds has of being champion this year. Reynolds, well, he led the series for so long, but once Hodgson and Walker sorted themselves out, they ran away at the front of the series.
You said at the start of this race, if Rutter gets on the rostrum again, it'll be a really, really good weekend for him. He's done it with second. Well,
Knock Hill was a landmark as far as level 3 Yamaha was concerned, and of course Ray Stringer, but today Brands Hatch has been any better. Paul Young fell, and that's teammate to Michael Rutter, but Michael Rutter as team leader really has done them proud. And the sun's coming out, can you believe that? The sun shines only on Chris Walker, Neil Hodgson might believe.
He certainly does at the moment.
And the fans just love him. A packed crowd here. It's a British Superbike race meeting, and it's been atrocious weather, and they have packed the terraces here. Chris Walker then, the winner of race 2, and goes to Donington with the advantage. Walker from Michael Rutter, John Reynolds third, Mackenzie a fine 4th for him, Shane Byrne 5th, Plater in 6th place, Hayden only 7th and somewhat subdued as well. Dean Ellison a fine 8th for him. Carl Harris, well, look at that. Carl Harris, 2 good rides as a privateer taking over John Crockford's bike. He's in 9th there in front of John Crawford, the worksman. Blackley, Mark Wood, Nottingham, Kazade and Redgate round out the top 16, although most of them were a lap down. Lee Humphries, Francis Williams and Dave Hill. What a bad day he's had for Dave Hill, but he'll still lead the Privateers Championship. Rennie, Free, Jones, Robb and Hipwell are the top 24. Chris Walker congratulated by his team as he rolls down to the Parc Ferme and of course the podium. That is a popular win for Chris Walker, if not in the INS Ducati camp, although they will recognise a fine ride from this young fella. Full revs and full marks for Chris Walker. That should make the championship very interesting indeed. Dave Pickworth, the manager of Chris Walker, then gives him a cuddle. The things you have to do in management. Walker then, 21 points confirmed, the lead over Hodgson. John Reynolds still in 3rd place and still in with a chance of taking 2nd place at least. Now then, I daren't ask the questions of Hodgson, so we delegated Claire.
Neil, not a good weekend.
No, not really. A 4th and a 6th and a crash in the best weekend, but you know, we're trying, and I didn't really feel like I'd done much wrong, but didn't score any points.
Literally looked like it was just slippy and you just lost it going into the corner.
Yeah, I felt really safe, felt really under control actually, and I thought about passing them 2 and then thought, well, I'll just sit here for a bit and see what happens. And next thing I was down, you know, it's the joys of riding in the wet.
Well, Chris, talk about tears and triumphs in one weekend.
Yeah, we needed that. It was hideous for me sitting there watching that first race, as you can imagine, watching all the boys flying around, and I needed desperately to be out there. It was my own fault. I made a mistake, as I said, and lost the front going into the back corner there, and when I remounted, lost all my oil. So no, really, well, I'm lucky really to be able to turn this weekend into something good, and thanks a lot to the boys for putting up with me between the 2 races and getting my head around it.
Difficult conditions, but you made that Suzuki squirm out there.
Yeah, I mean, I was really nervous going into that. It's horrible when you've had a bad result in the first race. You're desperate to do something good in the second, to the point where you're almost guaranteed not to. And fortunately, things worked out. The boys took a bit of a gamble with the setting, and Dunlop advisors on the tyres after what people had used in the first race. So no, it was brilliant. Thanks to everybody for helping me out, and the crowd were fantastic. I could feel them all the way.
Well, I'm sure you're aware it's 21 points. A couple of weeks' time, Donington. What are your thoughts going into that final round?
Panic. More blind panic. No, I mean, obviously, I'm not celebrating just yet. Anything can happen. Look at today, you know, I came here with a 6-point lead after the first race, had to sit and watch it. I mean, anything can happen. And no,